All right, the next step for us in this project is we have to have a way for the user to upload some images. And so we're actually going to start a separate project here so we can learn how to do this. So while we have our current project here, we're going to go to File, New Project, and start a completely new one, learn how to work with photos, and then we'll come back and implement it into our own app. So the name for this one, I'll maybe just go ahead and call it Photo Import Demo. Okay. And I'm going to do this at the latest API. You don't have to go that far in advance. You can choose which one you want, but I'll do that for this one. And we'll go ahead and hit finish here. Okay, so we'll go ahead and give Android Studio a second here to get all caught up. And basically, Android has provided us a way to very easily go get photos from a user's device, whether that's photo they've taken or downloaded to their phone. It makes it very simple to go and grab those, and we do that through an intent. So we use intents to move to our own activities that we've created, but in this instance we're going to use activities to move to an Android provided activity that's going to allow us to go and pick those particular images. So really the first step for us is we've got to go ahead and fill up the activity with an image view so that after we pick one we can go ahead and fill that. So we are going to be working with our main activity first, and then like I said, we want to be able to fill that in. And while it's taking a little bit of time here for the main activity layout to pull up, let's go to the main activity, and we can very simply write the code to get the intent so that we can go grab an image. And it's as follows. We're going to make a new intent, and I'll just call that intent. We're going to say this is equal to a new intent, just like we've done before, but this time we are going to say we are going to have intent dot, and we want all caps, action pick. So let's go down till we get to action pick. Oh, I didn't realize we're going to have to scroll a long way down to get that. And there we go, action pick. Then we're going to provide that we need to go to this media store thing. So we're going to say capital media store, hit enter on that, and then we're going to do dot capital images dot capital media dot, and then in all caps we want to do external content URI. Okay, so that's all it takes to get the intent. And really, once we have this, we're going to do start activity, and we're not going to do just a straight up start activity. We want to do start activity for result. So we're going to do the start activity for result. We're going to pass in the intent, and we're also going to be passing in a number here. So we're going to go ahead and do the number 1. This is, do you remember before when we were requesting permissions where you could add codes and stuff? Well, this is a request code so that you can keep track of the different results that you have. So with that, I bet our layout's ready to go here. Well, just about. And so instead of having this text view, let's go ahead and grab an image view, and we're going to have it take up the whole screen. So for the background, the default image, I'm just going to have this fill up a color for the time being. But with this image view, let's go ahead and just set some constraints. And I'm going to go ahead and set all of these to 0 so that we have an image that fills up the entire screen. Excellent. And we'll go ahead and adjust our constraints so that it actually goes edge to edge here. So we can, boom, look at that. We get this nice pink color there. Well, some people might think it's nice, others not. And let's go ahead and set the image view. Yeah, we could probably just call it image view. That's fine enough. So with this in place, we are now ready to start writing the code in order to go and get information when somebody picks an image. And in fact, if you want to see what this looks like, I'm going to go ahead and get the emulator running here. It's going to show us this activity that has been provided by the Android system, but it's not going to, if we select an image, it's not going to be able to do anything. We need to write the code to be able to handle that. So let's go ahead and start doing that now while we're waiting for the emulator to come. So just go ahead and start typing on activity result is what we're looking for. And there we go, on activity result. And this is the function that's going to be called when we get a result back from this activity over here. And so, we have to write the code to essentially get the image that they selected and then choose something to do with it. And it looks like our emulator's ready. So you'll notice when you get here, there's no images, and that's because this emulator doesn't have any images. And so it'd be hard to add an image to our app if we don't have any. So what I recommend to do is you can go download an image if you want to. If we do the camera button, let's see if we can find the photo app here. We should be able to just take our own. There we go, camera. So if you go to the camera, all the emulators, do you want this to get location? Sure, whatever. All right, so we've got that. It's going to do this weird little square thing, and if anytime you take a photo, it'll take this little square thing, so that now, if we were to go back, and let's run this app one more time, we could select one of those images. It won't do anything again because we don't have, it's actually this function right here, this method that we need to write some more for that's going to handle that situation. But you'll see when our app opens up, look, now we have 2 items that we could potentially choose from. Maybe I like the square here, so I go ahead and I select that, but it doesn't show up yet because we haven't written the code for that. So the proper code that we need here is, first we need to make sure it's the correct result that we're looking for, and so that has to do with this request code that we just made. So we're going to first check and say, okay, request code, are you equal to 1? And the other thing that we're going to check is that there's this thing called the result code. It should be telling us that everything is okay. So that was our request code. We also have a result code. We're going to see if this is equal to capital result okay. And we also are going to be checking to make sure that the data that we got back is not equal to null, not nil. I'm thinking of iOS stuff with Swift. Okay, so we're going to make sure that the request code is 1 to make sure that it's that one that we had picked. The result code is okay, and that we actually have some data to work with. Now, if that's the case, we're going to be working with some code that's going to require a try-catch. So let's go ahead and create one of those. We'll be able to handle an exception here that we'll call E. And let's just do an ePrint stack trace if we have any sort of issue. And then in our try here, we are going to create a bitmap from this data. So we're going to make a new variable called bitmap, and we're going to go to media store dot images dot media dot get bitmap. Wow, we are really going for this. And then we're going to do this dot get content resolver, and we're also going to pass in the selected image. So let's see, are not, where's our selected image? How come that isn't? Oh, I forgot one step here. So we need to create something called a URI, which is basically the location of our selected images, So we're going to say URI that we'll call selected image, and we're going to set this equal to data.getData. Okay. So with this, now we can pass in the selected image, put a semicolon on that. So after we have this bitmap, we can update the image view with it, but that means we have to get access to the image view. So we're going to do image view. I'll just call it image view is equal to find view by ID, capital R dot ID dot image view. And then we can take our image view and say dot set image bitmap, and we will provide that bitmap right there. Okay, so this should be the code that we need in order to take whatever image it was that was picked and have it show up inside of that nice big image view that we have. So let's open up the emulator here, and once this comes, go ahead, select one of these images, and we'll come back and boom, look at that. We have this image showing up. So I'm not sure why it's this way here in our app, but most of the time, if we're going to get into a user's photo, we have to have permission to do that. I'm not sure if the emulator just allows us to bypass that, but we don't want to move forward without being able to write the appropriate code. So there's a couple of steps that we've got to do here. The first one is we need to get into the manifest for our app, and we want to make sure that that's a use that we can ask the user for. So we're going to say use permission, and the one that we're looking for in this situation is we want to get to the read external storage. So we're going to scroll down until we get to the R's, and we want that read external storage. So we'll go ahead and close that up, and once we have that in place, then let's go ahead and start writing the code that we're going to be needing. I accidentally did a new line. There we go. That looks better. So back inside of our main activity, this is very similar to GPS when we needed to get permission. We had to request it and handle all the different situations. So we're going to go ahead and type out on request permission result. It's in fact the same exact method that we had before, but this time we're doing it with getting the user's photo, and we're going to say if we want to check that it's the proper request code. So we're going to say if request code is equal to 1. And then the next thing we want to make sure is that we have access to be able to do this. And so that's first seeing is this even coming for the right thing? And if it is, then we want to say, okay, if grant results dot length is greater than 0 and grant results at the first item is equal to package manager dot permission granted. So that tells us that we got the proper information that we need. So if this is all good, then we're going to want to go and ask for the photos, which there's a couple of times when we might want to do this. So let's go ahead and make a new function here. I'm going to say public void, and I'll just call this maybe get photo. And with this, we're basically going to do this code of, make a new intent and start that activity. So we're going to go ahead and paste that in there. And now that we have that in place, if we get permission, then we're going to go ahead and type that here. Say, if we've got permission, let's go and get the photo. And in the other situation, we'd want to do it in this onCreate. But before we go ahead and do this get photo, we would want to check first and see if we even have permission. So let's do an if statement here first. So we're going to say if, and the thing that we want to check for is check self permission. And we're going to pass in capital manifest dot permission dot read external storage. Remember, that's the one that we were working with instead of the location thing. So we're going to say if this does not equal package manager dot permission granted. So we've go ahead and we'll do that check to see, hey, if they don't have permission, we probably need to go ahead and request permission. So we're going to do request permission, and what we're going to pass inside of here is a new string array, and we're going to do our curly brackets like we did before, and we'll say capital manifest dot permission dot capital read external storage, the one that we asked for in the manifest. So we'll go ahead and pass the request code of 1. So once we've gone ahead and done that, we'll do an else statement here saying, hey, if it is the case that they actually do already have permission, then we'll just automatically call get photo, which will go ahead and start that intent. But if they have to ask for permission, it'll go ahead and do that. And if it all works out, where it's going to call this function, where then we can appropriately say, hey, if they gave permission, then we can go ahead and get the photo. So again, this is some code that we need to make sure that this all works out with our app. So let's go ahead and give this one last try, make sure everything's okay here, and then we'll actually have everything we need to move back to our Instagram app and get that up and rolling. So here comes our app. And you can see now it's asking for access, and we say allow. We can still go choose an image. So I'm still not 100% sure why it let us do us without asking for that. I can promise that's going to be the case on the device. So we really want to make sure we have this code. But this is enough for us to go ahead and move back to our project on the Instagram app, where we want to go ahead and add this code. So there's a couple of things that we want to do here first, and that happens to be the way that we want someone to add a photo to this particular app. And let's go back to our other project. I'm going to stop the simulator there. Let's go ahead and cut that out. Is we want someone to be able to hit the menu bar and be able to go and add this. So we're going to open up our project, and we are going to add a new directory here. So we're going to do a new resource directory, and this is going to be for our menu. So we'll just go ahead and call it menu. And then we're going to right click our menu here and say that we want to add a new menu resource file. So we'll go ahead and just give this the name share_menu, and we'll add this. And this is going to allow us to put a little menu inside of our app. So with this, it's best to just go ahead and go straight to the text view of this. And once we're inside of here, there's really only one item that we want to add. So we're going to add an item, and this is going to have the title. So let's do Android title is equal to capital share. And we're also going to say Android ID. Let's go ahead and set this equal to share, just all lowercase, and don't forget your app plus ID. All right, so with this in place, we can go ahead and end that tag. And if we go back to the design, look, we get that nice little share functionality there. That puts us in a good place. Then we've got to go write the code in order to implement the menu option. So let's go ahead and move over to, we want to do this inside of our user list activity. So we're going to have to add a method up here at the top for the onCreate, and we want to do this for the menu. So onCreate options menu. There we go. And with this, we want to do this return eventually at the end. So before we do the return, we're going to get a menu inflator that we'll just call menu inflator. This is equal to our get menu inflator, and then we'll inflate the menu. So we'll say menu inflator dot inflate. We'll pass in r dot menu dot share menu. Okay. So that's going to be all we need to get that. Oh, I forgot one parameter there, and that's that we have to pass the menu parameter right there. Then once we have that in place, there's a couple of things that we're going to have to add to our permissions here, right? Because we want to access the user's photos. So let's go ahead and open up in our Instagram app the Android manifest. And up here at the top, you can see there's already some permissions here. It's asking for internet access, access the network space, and we actually already have read external storage. So that came bundled with the project, so we're good there. But it's a good thing to check to make sure that is the case. So now we're going to want to go back to the user list. So when someone selects something from the menu, the on options item selected gets called. And so with this, let's go ahead. We're going to leave our return there at the bottom. What we want to do is make sure that they selected the share option. So we're going to do an if statement here, and let's go ahead and check and make sure, give ourselves some space to type. We're going to see if the item dot get item ID is equal to capital R dot menu dot share menu. So that's going to go ahead and tell us if this is correct, and if we have that. Oh, and I'm not doing the proper thing here, not the menu. We're looking for the ID actually of just straight up share. That would be for the actual share menu, but this is what we're looking for. So we're making sure they tapped on share. So if that is the case, let's go ahead and check and make sure that they have permission. And in fact, the code that goes inside of here, we've already written it. So I'm just going to pull up the other project where we go ahead and check for permissions, and then if not, we can go and request it. So I'm just going to go ahead and paste that in there. We're going to get a little error here because we don't have the get photo code running. So in that situation, there's a few more things that we'll have to go copy and paste. So for example, we are going to want to do this on request permission result. We also want to know what happens when someone goes and we want to have that get photo code. So I'm just going to go ahead and paste that in at the top of the project. Excellent. So with that in place, that sort of settles the one error that we were having there. And the next thing that we want to do is we want to sort of move around a few things. So let's go ahead and move down to this on activity result. Let's see. Oh, and that reminds me, we need to get the on activity result. So when someone selects one of these, we need to actually go ahead and copy this code. So we're going to copy this, bring that into our project. All right. Yes, go ahead and import all those things. So you'll notice we'll get a little bit of an error here because, you know, before when we were taking the bitmap of the image and we were trying to then go, you know, set the image view with it. And in this case, we're not trying to do that. We want to eventually upload it to parse. So in this case, let's just go ahead and log that we got this. So we'll say image selected, and we'll tell ourselves good work. Okay, so give ourselves a nice little pat on the back. Let's go ahead and run this and see if we can at least get the option to pick an image. And you know, it's not going to do anything as of right now. It's just going to simply log this. But the next step for us is, you know, we want to upload that to parse. So we'll go ahead and give the emulator here a second. We really are close to getting to the end of this Instagram project now that we have the ability to grab an image. We just have to learn in this lecture how to upload that to parse, and then we're going to wrap everything up in the next lecture, allowing users to not only upload images but also view other people's images. That's, you know, if you have an Instagram app and you can't see other people's pictures, you know, what's the point? That, I mean, you're on Instagram, you're trying to share your photos with the world. So that's kind of the big pull there. And looks like we're taking a little bit of time to get this emulator up and running. So while we're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and get started on the parse code. So it can get pretty complex to upload an image to parse, but just go ahead and follow along with me in the code. It's, you know, this is nothing that you have to have memorized. Like I, you know, had to definitely reference material to make sure I was doing this correctly. But once you kind of get in the flow of it, it's not too bad. And it looks like maybe while I was explaining that the emulator finished. So let's go ahead and try our menu option for share. Yes, allow that. We'll go ahead and pick one of these. And if that worked, we should get the image selected. Good work. So open up Logcat and image selected. Good work. Okay. So we know that that worked. Now let's go ahead and dive in and upload our code to parse. So the first thing that we need to get is a byte array output stream. So we'll go ahead and just call this stream, and we are going to set this equal to a new byte array output stream. Excellent. Once we have that in place, we want to take that bitmap that we had just extracted earlier, and we're going to say bitmap dot, and we want to compress this. And so we're going to go ahead and type out capital bitmap dot compress format, and we get to choose how we want to do this. And let's go ahead and, you see there's JPEG, and I haven't heard of WebP before, but we're going to use PNG. So let's do .png. Next, it's going to ask you for the quality here. Let's go ahead and do 100. And then for the output stream, well, we already created one of those, so we'll go ahead and have that stream. So this is just getting our image into the correct format here. Once we have this, then we are going to create a byte array. And so let's go ahead and just call this lowercase byte array, and we'll set this equal to our stream dot to byte array. That's going to go ahead and do our conversion there. Then once we have that in place, we're able to create something called a parse file. So we're going to say capital parse file, and we'll call the name of this file is equal to a new capital parse file. First, we got to go ahead and give this a name, and so we're going to maybe just call this image.png, and then we have to give it a byte array. So we'll go ahead and pass in that byte array that we had created earlier. Once we have that file in place, next we want to create a whole object or class around this file. So this is code that you've done before. You should know how to do this. We're just going to make a new parse object, and with this, we'll just give it the name of object, and we're going to say this is equal to a new parse object, but the name of the class we're going to pass through here is image. Okay, so this is just going and creating something new here, like we should see image showing up now inside of our dashboard. So back to Android Studio. Once we have that in place, we'll take this new object that we have, and we're going to put some data into here. So we're going to say put, and the first thing that we want to pass in is the actual image itself. So we're going to pass the parse file right inside of there. And the next thing that we're going to pass, or put on this object is a username of who this image belongs to. So we're going to say put an all lowercase username, and then we are going to go get whatever the current user is. So let me make sure I'm outside of the double quote there. And I'm going to say parse, and I want parse user dot get current user dot get username. All right, so that'll go get us whoever it is that took the image and, as you know, is uploading that, so we'll have that information. And now it's just like a regular parse object where we just say, okay, go ahead and save in background. I'm going to pass you a callback. So in this case, we're going to say new save callback, and this will tell us, you know, when it's all done. So let's go ahead and do our normal checks where we say first, you know, hey, if e is equal to null, that means that things have worked out. In this case, we should do a toast message to the user to let them know that everything worked out. So we'll do .make text. We're going to go ahead and pass in capital user list activity .this, and we're going to pass in a little message that says image has been shared, exclamation point. And then we're going to say how long this should last for. I like to do the shorts, and we'll go ahead and show that to the user. Okay. Now the else situation here means something has gone wrong, right? So we could do a print stack trace, but I'd rather just do a toast message. Oh, I forgot to add the extra equal sign there, but I'm just going to go ahead and do a toast message here that says, you know, hey, we had some sort of problem. So I'm going to copy the toast from above and just change it to say something like, there has been an issue uploading the image, frowny face. Okay, better spell uploading correctly. All right, so with this all in place, let's go ahead and give this a try. We'll run this on the emulator, and we should be able to upload one of our images and actually see it in the parse dashboard, which is pretty great. So go ahead and get our emulator here. Here it is coming on the phone. So look, we can see the users, and I'm currently logged in as John. So I'm going to say, you know what, I want to share an image, and I want to share this lovely squared box. And so I go and I pick that one, and it says, hey, the image has been shared. So if that's the case, when I reload here, we should see image. So I'm going to reload. Look, there's a new image class. If we select it, there's a new object uploaded with the username of John. That's a step in the right direction. If we click on this e.png, if we do download here, we can actually see the image. Man, how cool is that? So there you have it. We have in place now the ability to upload images to parse for a particular user. And now really just the next step for us is being able to view other users' images. So we're going to go ahead and cover that in the next lecture. It's the final one of this section.